Teachers of Reddit, what is the most stunning failure of class clown tomfoolery you've witnessed? I teach science and a student made a good nice shistrak pun. Then he stood there waiting for a response. No one laughed except me. I think it went over most their heads. I wish I could remember exactly what he said because it was clever. I was in history class one time, and some kid said something along the lines of I would make my slaves call me daddy, so I quickly made a Thomas Jefferson joke. I don't really remember it, just that it was mildly inappropriate and I was pretty proud of it. My teacher and I had a good laugh about it, but not even a chuckle from anybody else. My sister witnessed a guy yell food fight and throw his tray up in the air. The whole cafeteria just stared at him. He sighed and escorted himself to the principal's office. That's amazing, he brought himself to the principal's. Walked into my room and a student was at my desk. He jumped up and immediately started gesturing to the whiteboard where he had drawn a lot of squiggles and whatnot. He then started to do a fake lesson shtick to, I suppose, be funny. If he was trying to make fun of me, it failed as no one laughed. I teach community college, though. This dude is easily in his mid-20s, and the average of this class was around 30 plus. Most everyone looked like they wanted to die. I always despised class clown wannabes in college. For 1, time to grow up. 2, this is costing us all money to be here, and 3, none of it was ever funny anyway. I often encourage witty comments in my classes, and by witty I mean puns. When a pun fails I always laugh anyway and try to make the most of it for the student. The last thing I would want is for them to stop taking a risk and speaking up. As for actual tomfoolery, I had this one student in year 8 who would do stupid things like make silly noises, pretend to fall down etc. for attention. At the beginning of the year, the rest of the kids in his class would laugh. I would take him aside and encourage him not to do it. If I were to call him out at the time, it would simply be reinforcing that behavior. I would tell the class they should ignore such behavior, yada yada. He would get better for a bit, then revert to his old attention-seeking ways. Anyway, this obviously got old real fast for the other students in his class. One day he was swinging on his chair and accidentally tipped over backwards. Not a student looked up from their work. I ignored it as well. Watching from the corner of my eye I could see him up on his elbows looking around the room. A befuddled expression on his face. Why was no one laughing? Why is no one looking at me? Not getting the reaction he wanted, he exclaimed loudly. Ow. I just fell off my chair. Still no response from anyone in the class. He then started rolling around like a soccer player that had been touched in the penalty area, emitting spectacularly fake groans of pain and, I imagine, groans of frustration. Still no response from the class. Eventually, after a minute or so, my route around the class took me to his desk. By this point he wasn't making noises anymore, just lying on the floor once again on his elbows, glancing about the class with a look of bewildered frustration on his face. Hey Johnny, I say, why are you on the floor? With a petulant little pout he says, I fell off my chair. Me, so, you were swinging on it? J, yes, but it was an accident. Me, okay, you hurt? J, no. Me, well, get up and get back to work. And that was the end of his tomfoolery. A few days later he was out sick. I asked the class what made them decide to ignore him that day. They said they liked him, but what he was doing was starting to make people not like him because it was annoying. I was pretty impressed with that answer, so we played games for the rest of the lesson. Oops, I guess I ripped my pants again. Personal experience. In history class we were talking about Judaism and how God, in their religion, Yahweh, apparently told Abraham to do something and he didn't and God punished him. Anyway, so I said, well, I guess it's Yahweh or the highway, really loudly, proud of my pun. Dead silence. Don't make jokes in first period, kids. Dang, I guess I would have been the one weird kid laughing with you. That's hilarious. Not a teacher, but we had a long-term substitute teacher in junior year AP chemistry. Our regular teacher was pregnant. There was a stereotypical flamboyantly gay kid in the class who asked the sub the first day he was here, hey, Mr. Morrison, if I had testicular cancer, would you donate your testicle to me? We all cringed simultaneously. I would have peed my pants laughing at something like that. Freaking kids these days. World War II vet came to our school to talk to us. Teacher made it pretty clear, do not ask how many people have you killed. As soon as the veteran was done speaking, he asked if anyone had questions. And of course the little C, who thought she was just hilarious, raises her hand, and I just know what is coming next. How many people have you killed? There was sighs from everyone when she asked it. I hope she still cringes at doing that. What a C. We had a Holocaust survivor come to our school and someone asked him if he liked it in the camps. Everybody listening had a similar reaction to the one you mentioned. Holy crap, I've got this one. The 2GR, 9 boys, the class clown, and my mom's head of the parents board, so everyone thinks I'm a son, but I'm not. Got into the janitor's closet one day and found the toilet brushes. Nasty dirty used toilet brushes. They thought it would be hilarious to hide in the hallway and jump out at the girls, scaring them with said brushes. The first time they got the girls, who screamed, causing me to come out of my room and yell at the boys to go back to class. I didn't see what they had. I thought they were just being idiots. I go back to my room. They hide to jump out again. Someone else walks by. They jump out and smack them with a toilet brush, without realizing that it is the superintendent of special education. Yes, the class clown smacked the super freaking intendant with dirty toilet brushes. Upon realizing that they were in the highest level of crap possible, they ran outside and threw the brushes over the neighbor's fence, ran back to class, and tried to deny the whole thing. Unfortunately, the principal took the word of original girls, the superintendent, and myself, along with the security camera video, over the boys' word. It did not end well for them at all. TLDR. The class clown smacked the super freaking intendant with dirty toilet brushes. See more. I taught in Japan and would often kneel down in front of a student's desk to help them through their work. One day this kid, who was always a smart ass, called me over to ask for help, and thinking I wouldn't understand his Japanese, told me to kneel down and suck him off. The class dropped into stunned silence, and I picked up his textbook with 2 hands and smacked him on top of the head with it. The only time I've ever hit a student, despite my co-workers doing it regularly, literally every class, and I still feel semi-guilty about it, despite the fact that it solved his behavior issues in my class. Though I am a teacher, the worst I ever saw came from when I was a student. I was a freshman in high school when Columbine happened, and a day or two afterwards we were in my history class, which was taught by a football coach, in Texas, and we had somehow gotten around to talking about a recent rumor that the administration was going to ban backpacks, which had reached a new furor after Columbine. The teacher said he wanted the ban anyway because some students had backpacks so big you could barely even move through the hallways, and I don't even know what to do with that. The teacher finished. We could just shoot them all, a student said. You could hear a pin drop in that room. Then the teacher went full football coach mode. You think that's appropriate? Especially now? You would make a joke like that at this time? The teacher didn't punish him beyond that. I think just because the kid was so cowed by that point that he'd already gotten his just desserts. Kids like that are the reason I like to teach college, because I don't have to deal with that kind of balls. The biggest problem my class clowns cause me is that they're often funny enough to derail my lectures. Not a teacher. This is personal experience. A guy was pulled from my econ class due to his being arrested for a large amount of LSD. My teacher said after he left, "Did you guys feel the elephant in the room?" Me, being a generally quieter student who only speaks occasionally, said, "LSD guy actually saw the elephant." No one laughed. I don't think anyone got it. No, that's funny, man. As a student in home ec class, female teacher was demonstrating cooking. She talked about adding yeast, and I said very loud so all could hear, "Don't get a yeast infection." Dead silence from all around. As a young man I had no idea what a yeast infection was, just heard about it on the Monastet commercials. Still cringing about that. Hahaha, the naivety makes it fantastic. One of my high school freshmen was singing the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme song. I then told the class how my 2-year-old daughter loves to sing that song. She'll also always say it to me, "Mickey, just like the show." The class clown, who frequently speaks before he thinks, said, "Oh man, I would punch her in the face if she did that in front of me." Silence. Mayor what? Again, not a teacher, but during my sophomore year biology class this kid comes waddling, literally waddling into class looking like he is in the most pain of his life. Someone asks him what's wrong, and he puts on the biggest holy freaking crap this hurts but damn it I'm going to laugh grin and says, well, I stuck a tampon up my butt. The classroom was silent, absolutely deafeningly silent. His face kind of fell. It was one of those looks like you know he's just realized that he did all that for nothing. The teacher, in this voice of, I don't know what to do with you right now, says, just go take it out. He waddled back out of the room in silence and his face was so dang red. Everyone just kind of sat there for a minute before the teacher shook her head and went back to teaching. None of us really knew what to do and when he came back in he was still kind of limping and sat in the very back. What? I teach HS and during a class meeting I had about 45 kids in my room for some bulls reason. It was a bit noisy. No crap. Right, 45 suckers in one room. So I say can we please be quiet in a loud teacher voice. The clown in the back mocks me with a high-pitched nasally voice, can we please be quiet? Well, I was already in a bad mood. So my thundering voice asking this kid what did you say to me dropped the classroom to silent. I felt bad, I yelled at him like that. Oh, who am I kidding? That kid is a tool shed. Yeah, you shouldn't feel bad. That kind of crap is incredibly annoying and shutting it down hard is one of the best ways to make it stop. I teach Chinese and kid A wrote the word C in Chinese on a post-it and stuck to the back of kid B, who he hated. Kid A thought everyone would find it hilarious, except no one was able to read it. Curse words in Chinese are mostly slang and this was a level 3 class, and no one had a clue what it said. Like literally, no one even recognized the characters. Kid B walked around with it for half the period before his friend just said, oh hey kid A stuck something on your back, removed the post-it and threw it away. All the while, kid A sat in the corner snickering, thinking he was a diabolical genius, fully expecting a kid B to be humiliated and embarrassed and laughed at. It would have died there except kid B chose to fish the post-it out of the trash, Google the word, then made a scene. Kid A and B got into a fist fight. I had to separate them, and they both ended up in the principal's office with a 2-day suspension. I guess it was kind of a teachable moment because all the kids wanted to know how to say C after this incident. They knew what was on the post-it since during the fight kid B kept on screaming, don't freaking call me a C, and kid A screamed back, you're C, all as I yelled over them, stop saying that word. And when I refused to tell them they all went home and googled it. So at least they learned a new vocab word that day. Ah, the powers of the internet. Not a teacher but I knew someone named Futchin. He was a huge class clown and one day our teacher was sick so we had a sub. He was his usual rowdy self and the sub wasn't having it. He said that he is going to write down his name so that the real teacher can get him in trouble but he doesn't remember Futchin's name. Futchin says, let me spell it for you. FUC, and the sub just starts freaking out. The whole class immediately starts trying to calm him down saying that that's his actual name and spelling. He's just getting the sub's goat. There was a Vietnamese kid in my high school named Fuck. I don't know how to pronounce it but he insisted on being called frick and would no answer otherwise. In Spanish class, some idiot yelled Heil Hitler when our teacher said he was from Germany. You could see the shadow in his eyes as the dumbass said it. Turned out my teacher's grandfather died because he refused to join the Nazis. Heil Hitler, not Hi Hitler like you saw Hitler at your company picnic. Senior year, at math class, a group was trying to solve some equations. One of the girls solved it and the class cool guy who was a self-proclaimed pretty boy slapped her in the butt. Without hesitation she turned and punched him in the face. Everyone went silent. Some idiot yelled combo breaker, then full-blown laughter. He stormed out of the classroom holding back tears. Some guy threw his backpack out the window. You had one chance to use defenestrated and you done fricked it up. Teacher here. Had one of those students that's a class clown butthole. This is in a 10th grade class. First day of classes he asks to use the bathroom. I said he could go after my intro and syllabus explanation. So in like 10 minutes. Anyway, he immediately stands up and says you can't keep me from peeing. I'll pee in your trash can. So now everyone is staring at him standing there with his hand on his fly and a smug look on his face. My response? Okay, pee in the trash can then, big guy. We have crap to do, so hurry up if you're really gonna do it. Everyone was staring at him and he turned so red and sat down. No other problems the whole school year. I am not a teacher, but my mother was a 5th grade teacher for roughly a decade. She decided to stop teaching when she had my youngest brother. One day, out of pure curiosity, I asked her what was the most bizarre thing a 5th grader had ever done, and I was not disappointed. Apparently, one of the girls said something not very nice to one of the boys in her class, so the boy stood on his desk, pulled down his pants, and said, "Tell your mother to suck this," and then proceeded to flop his 5th grade penis around. I asked my mother what she did to the boy, and said nothing. I just let him do his thing for a minute, then he was sent to the office and his parents picked him up. Crap, that's weird. Not a teacher, but I went to a school with a guy that bent a paperclip into a U-shape and put each end into a power outlet in biology class. It threw him about 10 feet, blacked out the whole school for over 2 hours and got him suspended. Funny thing is, we were in electronics class together the year before. My electronics teacher said I knew he was a dumb butt. This confirms it. The best though was when Richard Simmons came to my school for a pep rally type thing about eating healthy and exercising. This kid kept calling, yelling F and other slurs. Richard Simmons calls him out in front of the whole school. The kid stands up yelling, "Frick you F. Frick you." Richard Simmons says, "Oh, he said the F word." He's so cool, and the kid was livid. A female teacher grabbed his arm to drag him out of the gym, but he shoved her. Then a vice principal and a male teacher or two dragged the kid out, never to be seen again. The whole school cheered and then danced to the oldies with Richard Simmons. Weird day. I would fricking love to meet Richard Simmons. He seems like such a riot. Not a teacher, but this happened when I was a student. I was the kid who fell flat. Anyways, we got a paper from 9th grade science teacher and there were 2 or 3 misspellings on it. Being the smartest I am, I raised my hand and asked who the moron was that created the paper and expected a laugh or two. Instead, I got a look of shock from half the class as the teacher replied that he had made the paper. I tried to up the ante and told him that it made perfect sense, then got called to the front of the class, 0 laughs, and had to issue a verbal apology or leave the room. I remember back in English class one time, one of our vocab or spelling words or something was allies. The sentence example she used was during World War II, Germany was part of the Allies. We had a field day with that. Classic not a teacher, but in the 5th grade this guy in my class was asked to pull down the screen for the projector and he yanked it hard enough it ripped from the roof and landed on his head. I never laughed so hard in my life. One of the high school seniors decided that it was Freshman Friday, so he decided to try and dunk some freshmen in a trash can. Turns out the freshman was tougher than he looked and managed to wrestle and pin down the senior in the trash can until staff broke up the fight. Later I heard that the senior who instigated the fight transferred out due to incessant teasing. Not a teacher, but one time a friend of mine was offered $1 to squirt jalapeno juice in his eye. He did it and started screaming from the pain. Someone jokingly told him to squirt it in his other eye to even out the pain. And he did it. Not the sharpest tool in the shed. I was teaching a college logic class once, and as I walked into class some students were loudly discussing one of their homework problems, a proof that they hadn't been able to solve. They were complaining that it was unsolvable, so I got worried that there was a mistake in the textbook. I said, "Which problem was this?" and this guy told me which number. I said, "Oh, there is a proof for that one. I did it last night." He said to me, real sarcastic, "What do I want? A cookie?" Everybody went completely silent. My mouth fell open, and I said to him in the silence, "What did you just say to me?" Not a teacher like the rest I suppose, but the butthole class clown tried to get the special kid to ask a male teacher for a BJ. He got punched. I was taking pre-algebra as a 6th grader, a standard course for 7th graders. And some of the 7th graders tried to get me to ask the teacher what a queef was. I'm not entirely sure why I didn't ask, as I was a very naive and gullible child, but I'm so glad that I didn't. Maybe not exactly what you were looking for, but I never let my students use gay as an insult. I taught in a conservative area, but I also knew some of my students were GLBT and having a hard time of it. It was my first year teaching. Anyway, one day this clown, straight boy, tried to get a rise out of me. On this particular day, everything was gay. He thought my outfit was gay, the homework was gay, his quiz score was gay, the school announcements were gay. I knew he was trying to annoy me, and honestly, he was starting to succeed. Eventually, he stands up and declares, "This book is gay. Why do you always make us read such gay books?" The Adventures of Huck Finn, in this case. Without thinking and without missing a beat, I very sweetly replied, "I'm so sorry you don't like it. I picked it out just for you. It seemed like the kind of thing you'll be interested in." The classroom went instantly silent with shock, and I suddenly realized that I'd implied that I was calling the student gay. I felt sick to my stomach. I was already imagining the conference meeting with the kids' parents and the school principal. I start to think that I need to apologize to this brat ASAP. Then suddenly the class bursts into laughter. The kid breaks out into a sheepish grin and laughs too. Then I start laughing. He apologizes to me, tells me that I got him good and that he deserved that. He sits down, grabs his book, and was a perfect gentleman for the rest of the week. I never heard a peep about that incident from his parents or the principal. I did hear chatter about it later in the hallway though. Apparently news of that zinger traveled fast in the student circles. You don't just get to call the Adventures of Huck Finn gay and get away with it. Not a teacher, but one time some kid tried to make a really lame sexual joke in reference to what a teacher has said once, and, honest to God, every single person in the room stopped what they were doing and stared at the kid for like 20 seconds until someone in the back finally booed him and we all started laughing hysterically at him, including the teacher. He was so embarrassed he never made another attempt at comedy again. When I was in high school we had a math teacher who, looking back, was very good. However, his sense of humor was too intellectual for 15-year-old boys. Yes, this was a boys' school. One day he made a particularly dry observation to which no one responded. He singled out the class clown Josh and said I was being facetious. "Josh, do you know what that means?" And Josh, without missing a beat, asked, "Is that when you think you're funny but you're not?" The class erupted in laughter, and even the teacher couldn't help but see the funny side. At my high school graduation, we had to exit the stage front and center two at a time in front of the audience. Two guys slid down the handrails together and it looked really cool. Then this dorky girl that nobody could stand decided to copy them, and she fell off the railing and faceplants in front of the entire senior class, all of our families, and the faculty. This is the same girl that ruined our senior prank, tried to correct or debate with teachers in class, and made no sense, and invites the entire senior class to her grad party and has 0 people show up. Even the faculty laughed when she fell. I've lost count the amount of times I would crack a joke to no response. Then the class popular kid would repeat the exact same thing about 30 seconds later and is met with raucous laughter. I wish I was high on Potternoose. Former class clown here, to recount my most epic of failures. Grade 8, years ago, the teacher was out sick, so we had a substitute, a poor older woman with a very thick accent and an angry demeanor that we all hated. A bunch of us in the class are having an eraser war. You cut up an eraser in small cubes and throw them at each other. Immature, harmless fun. The substitute comes in and someone chucks a cube at her. They miss, but it hits the chalkboard and falls at her feet. She bends over to see what it is. Just as I launch a cube, it landed between her eye and the lens of her glasses. She ran from the room sobbing. The entire room turned towards me, mouths open, stunned silence. I just sat there feeling absolutely horrible for what had just happened. Sure, I didn't like her much either, but I didn't mean to destroy her soul. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.